might be knowing, like there are various services, or when you talk about cloud, there are various cloud platforms, and all must have worked on Amazon cloud platform, and this and everybody is aware of what is Google. I mean, if we don't know anything, we just Google and we get the solution. And this pioneer has established its own cloud services. And going forward, I'm sure there'll be much more happening over here. And just to know and to be with the link and to be with the flow, it's good to understand what type of services these are. So I'll just take on to the agenda for today. So today I would like to just give a basic introduction to a Google Cloud platform. So what it is, how you can create your own services and all. Basic walkthrough of all the GCP services. So whenever we speak of services, right, from compute till data and network, everything is being included in these services. So basic walkthrough, not of course for all services, because there are more than 120 in the umbrella. But picking up some, I'll just explore the things, and that will help you to understand major of the GCP services. The next thing is a jewel, we can see, in the GCP platform, and that is Google BigQuery. Of course, when we want to understand the identity and access management, we should know the best practices of that, and hence IAM best practices. The next one is Google Cloud Functions, which will aim to understand how the serverless coding works over here, and to give a gist of it, and the Google Cloud Storage. So this is the agenda which I am targeting for that today. And if time permits, I would also explore to the, you can say, the Google Console, Cloud Console, and we can go ahead. Okay, just go to next slide. So all the services are under these umbrellas. So compute engine is there, networking tools, cloud storage, data analytics, cloud SQL, and IAM. So when you talk about any, so each of them are a different service coming from a different area. One is a compute engine. Compute engine is exactly like what you work on computer. Like it's a computer, basically. And the networking tools. So whatever tools or the services is needed for the networking, you can find this under networking tools. The cloud storage. So whenever we store data in computer, we store data in files, folders, and in Google Cloud, we store in the cloud storage, which is in bucket. So what are these? What are type of these? We'll explore this. Data analytics section. So this is one of the section we would explore some of the tools or the products which we have here. Cloud SQL, which is one of the database in the cloud platform, and then the IAM. So all of these services, see, if they, some of them, if they are alone, they don't make any sense, but they need to work with each other, and they all work together to complete a puzzle. So it's exactly like you can say a puzzle, that one single piece will not at all make that effect, but when they are combined together, they of course make sense. Now, what I'll do is I'll just quickly move to all these services and tell you what are the functions. So, but basically, I just wanted to tell you that when we talk about all these services, the main flow is the data. The data flow in the compute engine, then through the network into the database. So compute, storage, and networking are the three important categories of, you can say, other important categories in the umbrella. And how are these? So basically, I have taken this from one of the, this is called as a developer cheat sheet. So what they have done is they have basically divided them into various category, that under compute what is there, under storage what is there, what is there in the database, and and so on and so forth. So this list is very long, very big. Now, what is the purpose? And I'm not storing it in alphabetical order. The only reason is if there is a new service which gets added in compute, I come to know immediately. So this is why we maintain this sheet. So I'm just telling step by step to this. Now, whenever we work, okay, so whenever I have to deploy something, what I'll do is I'll create a template. Basically, the things to do. I want this, I want that. So this is a template. So I'll create a template and this can be done in the Cloud Deployment Manager. Now, what is this particular thing does it? I will deploy whatever I want in this Cloud Deploy Manager and I will run this. And this will have all the list of services. I mean, whatever you tell me. So each product, whatever you tell me, it will be listed here in this, you can say, Lego analogy, and you can run this. Now, this is one of the Google Marketplace. Now, if you want to have any tools, for example, you want ETL tool, you want a BI tool. So what is happening is they place that in the Google Marketplace. I'll show you in the Google console where you can find this. So this is one of the part which is not there in service, but I wanted to highlight it because these are very important things. That is what is Google Cloud Marketplace. For example, if you are, so if you see the whole Lego car is being placed here. So you don't find a pieces of Lego and you don't have to build, but it's already built and kept it into marketplace for you to take it and explore. So in similar lines, some of the ISVs or some of the ETL products, BI products, or any of the tools, they are placed in this cloud marketplace for you to take it and run it. I'll show you in the demo what is happening over here. Now, the basic things. Yeah, we are here with the most important and important feature, like that is a compute products. Now, when you talk about a compute product, you can see there is a compute engine, app engine, Kubernetes engine, and cloud function. Now, when you enter in a Google Cloud Console, you have first thing what you need is a computer. Now, how would you spin up this computer? So, using this compute engine. So, what is this compute engine? This is just like a computer. You can rent it, and it spins up, at a second. So, and hundred and thousands of, so today you want 100, tomorrow you want 1,000 machine, you can spin this up, and only you would be charged for what you are using it. So if you are using, for example, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, you can spin up and you can work on it, and at the end you can just stop the machine. So in this case, this is one of the important, you can say, compute engine. One second, I'll just. So this engine is, it can be termed as a building system, where you build virtual machines and disk, and so this is one of the important thing. Now the another one is a cloud function. Now, if you talk about what do you mean by cloud function, so it's written here is event driven serverless function. Now it is described as why event driven and serverless function is, it's a built it's built in, and if whatever functions you write here, it will be run as compared to compute engine in 1/10 of the second. And this is Google Cloud Functions, and you might be knowing Amazon Lambda. So it behaves exactly like that, Amazon Lambda. So whatever function you write, suppose I have to add a file in the Google Cloud bucket. The same function you can write in Python, in Java, in whatever language you want, and you just have to run it. Now you will be charged only for the run code, the the time it takes to run. It will not charge you for anything. The minute the end start and end time of your code, it's serverless. So if you are running more than 2-3 codes, it will run, and if you are not running, it will not charge you for that. So it's also, if you have a heavy sort of coding background, or you want to run many code as such, so it manages scaling for you also. So this is one of the important characteristic of the Google Cloud Function. Now everybody might be very interested कि कैसे दिखता कैसे है, so how it's look as. I'll just show you quickly how does that Google Cloud Console look like. So basically this is a Google Cloud Console. So what you have to do is you have to go into the you have to log in, you have to create a project. So I've created a project, for example, WWBQ WIDS. This is a new project. You have to create your own project and you can explore whatever you want. I mean, today, so this is the compute engine. So if you want to spin any VM, so in this fashion, you can go here and you can spin own VM. So what you require, and to be very honest, the $300 credits initial will be free for you. So there is no charge for you. So these are the APIs which you have to enable before you start a compute engine. So after that, you can see you can explore whatever you want in the compute engine. Now the thing I was telling you about a marketplace. So this is what is a marketplace. So in this you can so this is a marketplace. So you can search for anything over here. For example, you have to search for Fitran, for example, any tool, ETL tool, or so you can see that. So all the databases are there, data. So in marketplace, you will find everything over here. You can just play around this particular console. So that is what it is. One second, I'll move to the original part. So you came to know what is this and here. Okay. Now, one second. Yeah. So this was Cloud Function. This was a compute engine and the cloud storage. Now, the Cloud Function, I told you, it is in the compute product itself, because it's you can say it is used for compute and hence it's under this. You can request whatever through here, and I mean you can write any uh, code and you can run it. Now there is another, when you talk about cloud storage. Now cloud storage is what? So it's a pure service that is telling you, give me your data. So tomorrow I have lot of photos, I have maybe whatever, it's a JPG, any of your data is there, you can store it and you would be guaranteed that there is no I mean there will be no loss of your data. Basically there will be no loss of data and you will get what it is, and you will be charged only for the data which you are storing in it and not anything else. So here also you have something called as nearline and cold line. So these are basically archival occasional access storage. So there are these basically the two types, and they're perfect for backup. Now these cloud storage are priced and optimized for very I mean, one is for frequent data and one is for constant data access. That is what it is. Now, when you have these nearline and cold line, you also have something called as persistent disk. Now, this persistent disk is a type of storage. When you talk about cloud storage, what happen here is you create a bucket, and inside that bucket you store your data. Whatever is the data you store in this. For example, I'll move over here and I'll just show you how to create data. This is a storage. So this is a bucket which I've just now created. Now these are the bucket details. So if you go to select any of your project and just create a bucket. So when you create a bucket, you can just name it bucket. The bucket should be very unique. You have to store your data. It should be whichever region is specified, whether it's a multi-region, dual region, and you have to select, as I said, whether you want to archive it. Now, nearline is best for backups and data access less than once a month. Cold line is for once a quarter. So they have just explained whatever. Usually we take it for short term and we don't want, and we want frequent. So it's by default I'm selecting. And then you have access control, whether you want fine grain or how, and how it should be. You want it to be managed by encryption. So basically everybody is taking Google manage encryption key, because customer manage encryption key is like it's a bit headache. So usually by default we select it here over here. And whether you are need a retention policy or not, and if you want to add a label or not, and then you create a bucket. So in this way you create a bucket and store a data in it. So as you have seen, I've created a bucket called as storage lab console, and I have stored one file in it, so which is this particular file. So whatever files you have, you can see the configuration is mentioned, and the permission is mentioned, how much, whether you want it to be accessed publicly or how, and whether we want to retain it or how. So all the details are being specified. So basically this is what I'm talking about, is the cloud storage. So this is what I was talking about, a cloud storage. Now, when we have a persistent disk, what is a persistent disk? Basically, it's a type of storage. Now, every storage type differs. Like this was object storage, but this is kind of a storage which is called as a block storage. Now, it is like a drive in how hard disk you have, and you attach it to your computer. In same way, to your compute engine, you can add this persistent disk whenever wanted. So it will not be compatible with anything else than compute engine. Hence, it is said to be compute engine, and persistent disk are said to be made for each other. So in this way, whenever you have, when you need additional disk space, that time what happens is, you usually people use persistent disk, just like in hard disk basically. Now, there is something called as custom cloud file store. Now, as we know, this was an object store. And this data is stored in bucket. Here, data is stored in hard disk. Now, how is here data stored? As the name suggests, it's file store. So here, it sits between the cloud storage and persistent disk, and it is neither object based nor block based, but it is file based. It is being managed by NFS servers. Okay, and it's very flexible as compared to persistent disk, and it works better than a persistent disk, basically. Now, even if you see here, there's also called as Kubernetes engine. So this is one of the, what you can say, hot topic for today, Kubernetes. It's hot topic ever. Now, this is it will run and manage all the entities for you, clusters of compute engine instances, but it also reaches out to the network world and creates things like cloud load. Now, what happens is, it also creates one good advantage is, suppose it comes to know that its capacity is not, so it creates load balancer also, which helps to reduce the even further amount of load, and hence this is usually suggested. So basically, these are the managed Kubernetes and the container. So this is all about compute engine and storage, to be known to go ahead with basic understanding of Google Cloud. Now, again, the very hot, very hot topic. So that is AI and machine learning products. Now, when you talk about AI and machine learning products, you can see here Cloud TPU. That is a specialized hardware for ML. Now, Cloud TP, which is listed in AI learning section, it's a specialized network for machine learning. So it's kind of like compute engine instance, which we have just now seen. So it is basically built for a TensorFlow processing. So TensorFlow, you might be all aware of that. So in fact, that's what TPU stands for. TPU stands for TensorFlow Processing Unit. Now, Google invented this. TensorFlow basically is an open source platform for doing all sort of machine learning stuff, and it's basically introduced in AI and ML because it has specialized hardware for ML. So usually this has been preferred when you are using ML related work. So you use cloud TPU. Now, in the AI and machine learning products also, if you want to explore a few things, you can have, as seen here, there is cloud speech to text, cloud text to speech, cloud natural language. So speech to text means it converts your audio and it converts it into text, and vice versa, text to audio. And natural languages, what it does over here is it parses all the text and analyzes. For example, so we have done one of the project in our office. So the project was quite interesting. I would like to give a highlight over here in the natural language. So what we did is we scanned all the emails, and we just wanted to know how many of them were appreciation from the client. I mean, that is called something as sentiment analysis. So what type of good work emails we have, how much of some escalations we have, and we try to build a graph out of it. A bubble chart it was. Like the more positive sentiments, the bubble was more. The more negative sentiments, the bubble was less. So something on this particular test passing and analysis. So this was a very interesting time. That time I don't so that time Google Cloud Platform was not there, and it was so we had to face a lot of challenge to do this type of parsing analysis. But now it would be a very simple and easy work because we have these products right in the service umbrella itself, which can be spawned and which can be made use of. You don't have to write your own algorithm or anything. So that is one good thing about it. Of course, there are a lot of things to be explored. I'll not explain each and every one because the spectrum is quite huge. And in the middle of spectrum, we also have something called as Auto ML. Now here it is, yeah. All the Auto ML products you can see. Now these basic ML models set up, you can train. Now this is like, see, ML also, it depends all on your data. I mean, you have a correct data, you will get a correct classification, you will get correct image, everything. So basically what you have to do is you have to take these products, take your own data, train the model as per your data, and then can be used accordingly. I mean, this can be prospective or can be as per the organization data. So this is one of the interesting spectrum to be explored, basically. And also there are deep learning VM images, like pre-configured VMs for deep learning. So you can spawn them and you can utilize it because these are the VMs. Instead of using any compute engine, you can, if you're doing some analysis on deep learning, so these are the preferred machines for to be used for either like cloud machine learning engine or the deep learning engine. So you can spawn these VMs and work on it. So these are all provided by cloud as per needs or the requirements. So you will find much more. I mean, once you spawn it, you will come to know what more it has than the simple compute engine. I haven't explored these two, to be honest. Yeah. Now we have come here. So when I have to set up any SQL, MySQL, then it becomes a headache. Like today it is suppose version so and so. Tomorrow it becomes version so and so. I have to upgrade the system and all. So, but when I have a cloud SQL, I don't have to look for the upgrades, updates, and all the other stuffs. I mean, it is like it's managed by a compute engine. The persistent disk is there, install, upgrade, patching. I mean, even the it manages read replicas and all. So I don't have to do. So tomorrow I want MySQL or PostgreSQL, I have to just use this cloud SQL. So where I can start my SQL, PostgreSQL, add my own table and run on, and that's it. So I usually work by spawning nowadays using this Cloud SQL itself. It's very convenient, and believe me, everything is being taken care. So uh, you don't have to basically go start. You have to just stop and start, and that's it, and it works. Now, these are the relational database. In similar line, if you have a horizontal scaler, you want to scale the data horizontally, and you need a quite huge chunk of data to be scaled. So when the scaling is well beyond need, or it's like very huge, at that time a cloud spanner is usually preferred. But check the pricing model because it charges a lot, the cloud spanner. And that is one angle over here. All these products are good, but just we have to keep a quick watch on the GCP pricing. So there is a pricing. I'll just show maybe next session, or I'll take a detail on the billing section, because that's one of the important thing which we have to look for. Now, this apart from these two relational, there is also something which is non-relational. Now, this is a cloud Firestore. Now, this comes up from the Firebase family. I hope everybody might be knowing what is Firebase family. Like all the app engines which are being acquired by the Google belong to the Firebase family, and all these. This is a cloud Firestore. So basically, cloud Firestore is global, and it is strongly consistent, and it's serverless basically. Document DB. Anybody knows AWS and could just think of anything which is called as document DB in them. Okay, okay. We'll wait for last. Let's see. Okay, so here you can provision it, and this is for specifically non-relational document DB sort of data. Now the big table, as the name suggests, it's big table. It can scale petabytes, and it has low latency, but it's non-relational. So it's, if you want a predictable and high volume of data, then this is one of the better choice you have to go with. The next, coming to the analytics section. Now, when you take the analytics section, so this is quite interesting because if you see here, there is data flow, there is data proc. Now, data proc, it's managed Spark and Hadoop. So basically, whenever you're working in Hadoop and you're having, you want to use something in cloud, which is like Hadoop. So at that time, if you think of replacing it, the cloud data proc is the one where you can store large amount of data, and you can do the processing in Spark and Hadoop using data proc. So this is one of the option. And if you have to go to data flow, so this is recent. Data flow is recent than data proc. And here also data flow stores large amount of data. The only good thing about um, this was released, I think, by Google itself. That is Apache Beam. Yeah, Apache Beam. And then this is called as data flow, and basically it's used for stream and batch data processing. So whenever you have to work for real time analytics, at that time data flow is a good choice, I can say. And that can be useful. Now, genomics is, when the name suggests, it's used for healthcare sort of medical data, and it has all the platform which is related to them. So also it takes, so basically it takes place all, it handles data governance also. Whatever criteria is needed for that, that is also being achieved using all these platforms and products. And hence, whenever you want to deal with healthcare, so it's HIPAA certified, and you have all the standards over there, and hence it's been preferred. Now the next thing is cloud pops up. Now, as the name suggests, you want to send some message, you want to receive some message. Now, at that time, what is very flexible? So this is very flexible product. It's global, basically. It's not specific for any region. So it's global and it's real time. So here what happens is you create a topic. So it's like creating a topic, like we create a bucket in the Google Cloud Storage. Similarly, here we create a bucket. We published some one message, and it goes to publish. So we subscribe it and then publish it. In this way, the to and fro, you can say, of the messages can be done using Cloud PubSub. Now it can be used to connect anything, any service in the Google Cloud Platform and anytime, that is using Cloud PubSub. Now Google BigQuery, I have 2-3 slides on that, so I'll not say more about this right now, because this is one of the data warehouse. It's serverless and it scales up automatically. So this is one of the important cloud data warehouse which we have here in the data analytics platform. So basically it's used for analytics itself, and it scales up to petabytes of data. So that is what it is. So we have some more slides on BigQuery, so I'll not tell right now more on that, but this is the gist of it. Yeah, we'll take the next part is networking. Yeah, now in networking I have one second, there's something wrong over here. Yeah, so this is a networking. Pardon me for this. Now, when you talk about networking, so whenever you move the data from one place to another, so the most important role which plays over here is networking. Now, what we have here in the networking umbrella, the most important is a virtual private cloud. So when you don't have to go directly or expose yourself directly to internet, we create a VPC and we add two machines, two our domain inside this virtual machine. So basically, it's a software defined network service, and it's an umbrella where you can define your own network service. So that is a VPC. It's a huge and a big topic which we can cover later, but it's to be short, I can say that it's an umbrella where all you can connect all the network services. Now, basically, there is a dedicated interconnect. Now, one can use dedicated interconnect to have dedicated private network. So I'll just show you which it is. So this is dedicated interconnect. So here you can connect between VPC and external data connect. So using this data dedicated interconnect. Now we have something called as Cloud NAT. Now this name suggests network address translation. So this helps you to translate the addresses basically. You have a cloud load balancing. Now, as it deals with multi-region load balancing, it's preferably very special when you combine it with premium network tier that can be IP and still have VPC actually along with it. Now, all network can connect to one single IP address. Huh? Whatever network you have, it will connect to one single IP address and still have a connection to be made whichever server you want. Now, what happens is when you are connecting, there is a chances of this connection getting what you can say break. So that is called as failover. Now, what happens in Google is this service, they are very transparent. They tell that these are the failovers in the logs, and you can check that they get reroute also. They get reroute also to these services. Now there is a cloud armor. So this is basically deals with DDoS, that is the distribute denial of service protection, and web application firewall. So whenever you want some protection, at that time you use cloud armor. So these are the ones. So cloud CDN is a content delivery network. For example, you are seeing Netflix so there is a series of Money Heist which has been also seen in India. Now what happens is these this is content delivery. So content delivery, how we can see it in one, uh, in such a fast network. So this network has been, cloud CDN is being used by Netflix, so that every user in any other location have get quick access to the picture or whatever serials or the series, and they can see it very fast. So if you see the speed of the Netflix, it's quite fast. You never feel that it's been delivered. It's been. I mean, it's the content is delivered to even the remote areas very fast due to this cloud CDN. So this is one of the major service, and Netflix has been using this, and this is one thing. The next thing is cloud DNS. Now tomorrow, if you want to have a website, so what you will do, you need a domain name. So what is done over here is cloud DNS gives you, or Google gives you a domain name, and every time if you have that, it will be 100% uptime. It will never be down. Though you will be charged for it, but once you are charged, it will be active or up all the time till you say that I don't want cloud DNS. So this is the power of networking in Google, I can say. So each and every you can say products has been very wisely used and utilized. And after all, if you have products and if you don't make use of it, that's not good. So hence, I wanted to give a background that this is what you can use it, because if you come to know what it is, you will be able to use it. Otherwise, it won't make any effect. The next thing which I would like to tell is about the management tools. Now, these are the management tools. Why I'm telling you? Because these are the stack driver, and the stack driver monitoring, or you can say logging or error reporting. So what happens over here is every activities in the GCP services are being tracked, being monitored, and being logged. So whether you are taking it from a marketplace, or whether you are taking it, you are using a cloud service, you are using storage, you are using any of the compute engine, or you're using any, like I have shown just now, Fivetran from the Google Marketplace. Any of these services, they are being, these services are, so these stack driver monitors them, adds logs, so that we come to know what is wrong in the flow. And this is one of the advantage that it helps to manage these tools. If you have a good debugger, if you have a good error reporting and the logging, which is being added on or put forward by the service itself, then it becomes very helpful to keep the performance, to keep the system active and understand if there is any glitch. The next thing which I would like to take about is the section which is called as identity and security. Now, when you talk about so many services, the security of the service becomes very important. So I'll just take one, cloud identity. Now, this is if you're not using Google Suite and wherein manager you're using or managing users device or apps, then cloud IAM, you use identity access management, which is a resource. So this controls or manages all the device and apps. So this is called as cloud identity. Cloud IAM, so I'll just show you cloud IAM in next, maybe after 2 to 3 this, so that you will come to know what this is called as resource access control. So if you have a resource, it is like if you have a resource, you will be able to work on it. If you don't have, you will not be able to work on it. So it is this particular umbrella which takes care of the roles, privileges, everything. Now, when you talk about more security, cloud HSM. So hardware security model is being handled. So just now, if we see, just now we were using cloud storage, and we saw something called as Google Managed Encryption Keys. Now, these were Google managed, but when we have some hardware installed and you won't need a security or an encryption for it, so cloud HSM is usually being preferred or used. So this is all about the security permissions and the keys, you can say. I'll just show you how and where you can see these services. Yeah. So these are the cloud storages, and now, yeah, I was telling about BigQuery. So this is a BigQuery which you can use. What happened is these are the data which I have taken it from, you can say, a public data set. So this is how the public data set is named as BigQuery public data set, and inside that you can see a lot of data being spawned. So these are the data which you can utilize it and use for whatever purpose you need. So you get this free data. So this is what it is about the BigQuery. And I was talking something on the marketplace. Yeah, I'm talking about IAM, right? So this is IAM admin. So if you look at this IAM, so this is the bucket which I was talking about. It's identity access management, where you provide permission or you remove, you add a user, you add a new user. You suppose there is a user, I just add a user, I give a specific role. So whatever role are there, so basic role are editor, owner, and viewer. And for example, I don't want that person to give this also. I want to give a specific role for a BigQuery admin or BigQuery. So you have those particular roles also. Auto ML service agent. So these roles are also being set. So these are called as the IAM privileges. So here you can add user, you can remove, you can give the related permissions. So this is the umbrella which I was talking about recently. Yeah. Over to the next thing. So why cloud platform? Now, as you have seen, it's quite serverless. You have cloud AI also. You have big data analytics also. You have API platform and ecosystem. You have IoT also. You have custom machine types. So whatever machine types you need, you will get it here. It's highly scalable and it's very cost effective. So if right now also, if you try to spawn it, you will get $300 free, and then it would be charged. Every services, most of the specific is serverless, and if there you can just take a billing look, and so when you start a machine, utilize it and stop it. So you get minimum charges for it. It's not too costly, what I can say. So these are the features. It has Google BigQuery. It's quite scalable, and it has a standard SQL and all these. Because of this reason, we can have this now. The Google BigQuery, I was saying, it's very serverless and it scales petabyte of data. It has data governance and security. Standard SQL is there. It has built-in ML and AI integration. So this is one of the good thing which has been recently seen. Also, real-time analytics has been seen, and it's columnar database. So as I always say, it's very fast. And this is what I showed last time, that 1 terabyte took 11.4 seconds. And this is how it works. That it takes feature 2 and 5, and it's a columnar basically. And then this is how it evaluates the data. That is what I just wanted to show, and hence I just thought of placing this, that it hence acquires gives a quick report. Now even the pricing rate, I think this will be quite detailed for you, but it's serverless and it has a flat rate as well as annual flat rate. And so it's basically free till 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte, the data is free. Now, to be very specific, what free operations are there and how you can, now just now I have loaded data. So it's quite free. I can copy data from one place to another. I can export data. I can delete the data set. I can delete tables, view partition. I can do any sort of metadata operation. I can see how much table is having, what is the, just now what I was doing. I can read so columns in it. I can read meta tables, and I can create user defined functions. So all these are free operations in Google BigQuery. So you can explore these, and they are almost free. So if you want to also, so this will also give you good insight to play and hands-on with SQL, and to understand that how you can explore more in the data warehouse, because this is one of the free data warehouse where you can do all these things. And also till 1 terabyte of data, You don't have to think of pricing itself. Now, just now I showed you the Google Cloud Storage. So this was very flexible and inexpensive storage. It's serverless, and it's also called as object storage. Now, basically, so initially I told you that when I want to create a bucket, I have to enable the API, and then you can add it. And max object size should be 5 terabytes. Now over here also, when you talk about the storage, there are various classes. Like there is a standard storage, there is nearline storage, cold storage, and archival storage. Now good for hot data, if you want a frequent access, then you use this. And if you want low cost and you require it only for 30 days, then nearline storage is preferred. So depending upon the type you need, you have it over here. If you want very low cost, you can't prefer this, you have to select 90 days or archival storage, which is very lowest. That is good for stored for at least 365 days. Now, I would just like to show how you can use Google Cloud Console. Now, 1 second. Yeah, so this is a bucket. And this is a cloud shell. So whenever you want to activate, you can activate your cloud shell in this particular fashion. So this is my own Gmail account, and I have created one cloud storage, and this is a I have spawned. I think I have spawned somewhere. I'm not seeing it. This is the you have to enable this API. I have enabled it in different, and I am doing it in different, so that yeah. So this is a ID. Now I have to. So this is the command which you can gcloud config list. So this is, it gives me, if you want to authorize, I'll just authorize this, and it will give me whatever configurations. I mean, what is your email address, what is a project you have used, and all sort of things like. So in this way, you can play around this. Like gsutil is a command if you want to look into what is there in this particular directory or in this particular project. So you can see there is this particular storage lab bucket, or I have added, that is a cloud storage I have added. So if I say gsutil and I will go to this particular, quite slow. Yeah, PWD and LS also you can use. You come to know what it is. So in this way, it will give me also what is there inside this cloud shell. 1 second. Either fast or slow. Yeah, so you can see in this particular storage, I have this particular file stored. So it gives me that particular listing as fast. Now, this is how you work on the cloud storage. That is just, I wanted to show you using the cloud shell. You have to spawn the cloud shell, and just using the command gsutil, you can explore these things. Over to the next slide. 1 second. Yeah, so I was talking about IAM best practices, and we have seen that I created a user, and how, I mean, whenever we create a user, or the principle of list privilege should be given. Suppose there is a new member in my team and I have to give him only BigQuery. I just want him to view the queries. I have to give him the BigQuery viewer role. So principle of least privilege is one of the most important thing in IAM best practices. The basic roles, if you give, are not recommended. Use service account with minimum privileges. So we'll come over to that. What is service account? What is group? And you bind the roles in the group. And the most important thing is constant monitoring is very required. It's very much required, and separation of duties. Like suppose if you have admin, you should not give, and you create a custom role which also has an admin. So don't try to mix 2-3 roles or duties. So that is one of the best practice. These are the best practice which I wanted to highlight. And this is a resource hierarchy basically in the GCP we follow. So it's like you have an organization. For example, in your organization also there is HR department, there is finance department, there is IT department, and each one has it. So similarly, there is a domain which is cloud, there's organization, there's a billing account. So these are projects basically, lot of projects. So as you have seen, I've created one project. I can create n number of projects, and these projects can have n number of resources. It's not mandatory that this project and this project should have same resources. One can have no project or resources, and one project can have many resources. So depends upon the depends upon the need or the requirement. It can vary. Now, if you talk about the permissions, so you are creating a user basically. A user is an identity which you can be proven by email address. It requires a Gmail ID. So you can create a user. So service account, this is usually created basically when you are using it for some service like SSIS. You are using SSIS or ETL tool. At that time, you have to you have to create a service account and give it to that particular service. At that time, service account is created and we grant a role to it in this way. Now, a permission is how it can be granted is service.resource and whatever service name. Now, role is permission which you give. Basically, just now as you have seen, there were owner, editor, and viewer. So these are called as primitive roles. And predefined roles gives a granular access to GCP service. Even you can create a custom role. For example, WIDS viewer role. So you can add specific roles in that particular custom role and you can give permissions. So it depends upon the requirement. Now policies, if you want, you can bind it to the resources. Like I want to give deletion policy or retention policy. I want to retain this after 30 days also. So these all policies, you can assign it and grant it to that particular member also. Now, a billing account represents some way to pay for GCP service usage. For example, I'm having a project, but the billing account is on my ID. That is the ID I have created. So I have to pay the bill, or the organization who is there, who has created, have to pay the bill for us. So it can be linked to a project. So many project can be given. Like this is if you're a CEO, CTO, and development team. So we don't have billing activities. Nobody is giving access. Here you can set alerts, view spends. So this is the area which you have to explore more, because here what happens is the billing is an area where needs to be understood. We have to set a budget. We have to set alerts. But of course, when you're doing it or exploring it, you don't have to be very much alert, but just have to keep a watch that whether the instance you have created or the service which you have created, you are stopping it once your work is done. For example, you want Cloud SQL, you spawn it. If you don't want it, just stop it. In this way it works. Yeah, I just thought of giving some Cloud Shell commands over here. Just now what we did for GS Util. In this way, we can do it for G Cloud, and we can add the policy, resource name. So this is how it happens in the policy bindings. Yeah. Now some more on cloud function is the cloud function, as I already said, it's an event, or whenever it's a trigger basically. So you want to upload a project to object to cloud storage. This is an event. So what will be a trigger? Respond to an event with a function call. So this you have to write in the coding language, or maybe in the Python or uh, Java. So whichever language you prefer, you can write. But these are called as a cloud function, which you can write. Now this function to trigger what an event occurs. Now events are triggered from where? They are triggered from cloud storage, cloud PubSub, HTTP host, and all these APIs, and then cloud file store and stack driver logging. So basically, these are the gists that how event is created and what should be the trigger once the event is created. And I mean, what action should be performed once the event happens. That is usually seen in the cloud function. So first what you have to do is run a code in response to events. So it can be Node.js basically, Python, .NET, Ruby, whatever language you prefer, you select. You will be pay only for what you are using. You all will not be, and time bound is its default 1 minute and max 9 minutes. You will get time, you will get whatever high data you have, you will get output in this particular time frame itself. That is what is a good thing about the Google Cloud function. Yeah, what is the advantages here? So if you want to execute some code, what event happens? A file is uploaded in Google Cloud Storage, error log is written in cloud logging, a message arrives to Cloud PubSub that it is being done. So what is required here is basically no server management. This function scales horizontally, responds to the events, and things happens very fast. You will get a notification also that yes, it's been done. Your file is being uploaded. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say today about all these cloud storage and all the lot of Google Cloud services basically. And yes, I think we have covered each and every function and each and every service which is being needed for the in the umbrella. Maybe it be a cloud or network, or it can be security services. So all type of services have been covered, and I think everybody today should can create their own Google Cloud Console and explore a lot for many things to happen. Like if you want to spawn a VM, just at least try instance first, and then the cloud, MySQL, PostgreSQL, and play around with it. Because once you play, then only things will happen, and you will come to understand what it is. Yeah, that's all from me today. Over to you. Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, okay.
Guys, any questions?
How much time, one second, somebody's asking, how much time does it takes to initialize the cloud function? I mean, it depends upon how much time you take to write a code.
Prachi, I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
Let's suppose if I have 5 to 10 microservices,
Mhm.
what is the best service which Google provides to deploy those services on?
Uh, I am not aware of that right now. Microservices, no, I'm not aware of that. Okay.
Like you have containerized applications, Dockerized applications, and
Yeah.
let's suppose you want to spin it on Kubernetes,
Hmm,
maybe
hmm,
Google Kubernetes, or
hmm.
for web application you have something in Google Cloud, right? For web applications.
Yeah. So for Google Cloud Kubernetes engines, you can explore that platform. I haven't worked on actually in the web sort of microservices in Google.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. But what type of microservices are you exactly looking for?
Like basically, let's suppose you have some application, you
Mm-hmm.
break that application into microservices. Microservices, nothing, just an application only,
Yeah.
but it's got one feature. So basically, let's suppose you break an application into 5 microservices,
Mm-hmm.
and then you want to deploy it on Google Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the best service which Google is providing? Like
App
AWS
engine.
has,
You want to say
yeah,
app engine?
yeah, maybe App Engine. for
Yeah,
like
so
for what?
App Engine is the one which is preferred as a service for microservices.